Hey, how's it going everyone? My name's Tony and I want to help you learn how to design t-shirts and other things even if you have zero design experience. Today we're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to design something in Adobe Illustrator, then we're going to jump into Affinity Designer and design the exact same thing. I recently got Affinity Designer because it was on sale for $25. And I know a lot of people have been asking if I could do some tutorials for Affinity Designer. So I'm still learning the program, but I know enough carries over from Adobe Illustrator that I just need to figure out a few new things to do and different ways to do some of the things that I already do. But I want to teach you guys what I learn as I'm learning it. This should be a pretty simple design and you should be able to follow along even if you've never designed anything before or used either program before. We're just going to break things down step by step and try to take it as slow as possible and explain what we're doing and what tools we're using. I already filmed the tutorial portion of this video and I noticed halfway through that I forgot to mention what typeface I was using. So I'm going to link that in the description of this video. I'm also including a link to the graphics I used in this design. That way, if you're brand new to this, you don't have to worry about creating your own graphics. You just can concentrate on following along, learning the tools, and learning how the programs work. So with that said, let's just jump right in and start designing. Today we'll be designing the circular logo style design. I'll be providing the graphics for you to keep it simple so you don't have to try to recreate this mug or the shamrocks. There'll be a link in the description of this video. We're going to start in Adobe Illustrator, then we're going to jump right into Affinity Designer and see if we can design the same exact thing in there. So let's just move this off to the side in case we need something for reference and get started. I'm also providing this color swatch here in the shamrock design file. So you don't need to try to dial in any colors. Everything's pretty much taken care of. We're just going to focus on the techniques this time. So I'm going to start with my ellipse tool, which if I push L on my keyboard gets me that. Then I'm going to find the center of my artboard here. I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift on PC, Option Shift on Mac. And we're just going to make a circle whatever size we want. This is going to be about like this. We're going to have another circle a little bit further out here and then these inner rings. So we're going to start with this one. This is basically this second circle here. So once I have this, I'm just going to sample my swatch. Then I'm going to go over here and click on this little swap fill and stroke. Or I can hit Shift and X. Now I'm going to make my stroke. Let's start with 14 points. We can make it a little bigger if we want. We'll make this, actually I like 14. And again, I'm just kind of going visually with what I think works good. So here I'm going to use my selection tool. I'm going to select this circle. I'm going to copy it. Control C, Command C if you're on Mac. Then I'm going to paste it in place. So I'm pasting in place. And this just basically pastes it exactly in the same spot where you copied it from. Now once I do that, I'm going to use my selection tool here. Make sure this is selected, and I'm going to go to this corner. And I'm just going to start dragging. I'm going to hold down Shift, then I'm going to hold down Alt, and it's going to make it do it perfectly constrained circle from the center out or in. And I'm just basically eyeballing all of this to where I think it looks good. I can adjust things later. Now you notice when I resized it, it changed the size of my stroke. So now this stroke is 9.8611 and this one is still 14. So what I need to do here is select this one on the inside that got smaller. Then I'm going to just use my eyedropper tool. And I push I on my keyboard and it gets me the eyedropper tool. And I'm going to eyedrop that first circle, and then it changes the size of the stroke. All right, so now I've done that. I'm going to copy this inner stroke here, paste it in place, bring it in just a little bit. We're going to change this color here to black. We're going to make this stroke smaller. I'm going to go with 8 points. And again, I'm holding Alt and Shift, Option Shift on Mac, and I'm just gonna make this to where I think it looks good. I could even make that a little smaller if I wanted. And again, this is just, you gotta go with what looks good to you. You're gonna design to your own likings and your own tastes and the way that you perceive proportions. So don't worry about making it exactly the same as I'm doing. All right, so next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy that one more time. Then we're gonna paste it in place. And then Alt Shift, Option Shift on Mac, and we're gonna make this big. We're gonna bring this up to about here. Okay, so I'm gonna get my eyedropper tool again with this selected and eyedrop this inner one. I want to make that a little bit out. Okay, I'm going to eyedrop that. I'll make sure these are all right. So that's 14 point, that's 14 point. This one's 7 point, this one's 7 point. All right, so now we have the basic framework for our design here. So what we want to do here is get this text around this circle on the top and on the bottom. So we're going to get our ellipse tool here. And this time I'm going to just find the center of my artboard, hold down Alt and Shift, Option Shift on Mac, and just try to center it as best as I can between these two lines. And it doesn't really need to be perfect, but it should be reasonably centered. Okay, so now I'm going to use my scissor tool. And if I push C on my keyboard, it'll give me the scissor tool. And I'm going to click on this anchor point and this anchor point here. Now what this is going to do is it's going to split this circle in two, and that'll allow me to put text on one half and then text on the other half. So I'm going to use my type tool, type on a path, click on this anchor point here, this top center one, and we'll just copy and paste our text here. Now you'll notice this is upside down and off to one side. So here I'm going to grab my direct selection tool, click on, actually I'm going to grab my selection tool, click on this path, and then you'll see this handle here, and there's one in the center and there's one on this side. These two outer ones tell me the area that the type is going to cover. So if I drag this one a little bit that way, you'll see now it's centering it between these two handles. So I'm just going to keep moving this one till it's at the edge. And now this one needs to come down too so they match. And now this center one, I can just drag it upward like that, and now my text is in the right direction. And the next thing I want to do here is, this one's already set the right way, so I'll set this back to 0. But I want to set my baseline shift. So when you type yours in, it should be on top of this line. And you'll notice that it's uneven. And instead of trying to constantly resize this until they match, what we're going to do here is go baseline shift. And we're just going to bring it down until it looks about centered. Okay, and from here we can make this text bigger if we need. We can adjust the tracking, because a lot of times when you bring it in, the tracking is going to be tight like this. So we'll adjust that. And then when you're putting type on a curve, the kerning can get kind of weird. So we're just going to go in here and check on our kerning and make sure everything looks okay. Now we're going to do the same exact thing for this bottom text. We're going to go with our type on a path tool. And if I use just the regular type tool, I should be able to get type on a path. What'll happen here is the little icon will change to the type on a path tool when I'm on the path. And I want to find this anchor point and click here. And so we're centered, and you'll notice again I need to drag this to the edge and then drag this little handle to the edge. And then I'm going to copy my text here, just paste it in, and I want to match this, so I'm just going to eyedropper it. So I push I for the eyedropper with this selected and sample this. But you'll notice that even though the tracking is the same on these, this one looks way more spaced out. So I'm going to bring this in, and a lot of this I'm just visually trying to match things up. And like I said, once you start putting type on paths, all kinds of weird little things happen here and there. So I'm going to adjust our kerning, and what I'm doing here is I'm going in between each letter form, holding down the Alt, it would be Option on Mac, and using my left or right arrow keys. And you could also do kerning with one of these menus. I'm not sure, I never use it, which one exactly it is. I probably do here it goes, here's the kerning one. So yeah, but I find it's easier to do it with keyboard commands. And with everything selected, I can hold down Alt and adjust the tracking that way with the same exact keyboard shortcuts. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention the typeface we're going to be using here is Roboto Slab Black, and you can get that from Google Fonts for free. You just type it, go to fonts.google.com, type in Roboto Slab Black, and you'll find that typeface. All right, so I can make this bigger still. Then you'll notice as it gets bigger, it starts to bleed into the outline on the top here, not on the bottom. So what we're going to need to do if that happens, if we're adjusting sizes, is adjust the baseline shift some more. And I'm just holding down Control Shift and resizing like that way. I could also click on this once I have one of these. Oh, actually it's Control Shift greater than less than, sorry. Control Shift less than makes it smaller. Control Shift greater than will make this bigger. Or I can just make sure this is selected, use my eyedropper tool and eyedropper this part at the bottom. And you'll notice that when I did that, my tracking is way too tight again. So we're just going to make this bigger and bigger and bigger. We're going to grab the tracking here and just keep increasing it. And then we're going to try to make our kerning look as good as possible. And we'll notice that this one now is spaced way further than the top one. So we're just going to bring that in. And when you're dealing with the type on a path, that's just a thing you're going to probably have to deal with. Okay, so now once I have this exactly how I want it, the next thing I'm going to do here is grab my shamrock, resize it. It's going to pop it right in here. So I'm going to center that as best that I can. Now the next thing I want to do here is select this, reflect tool. I'm going to make this vertical 90 degrees and click copy. And now that just made a copy of it mirrored. I'm going to grab my selection tool, hold down shift so it stays on this line, and then move it right in here. And again, just try my best to center it. And now we'll take our beer mug, move it in, and you'll notice it's behind everything. So I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. which is Shift Control right bracket. I'll resize this. And because of the shape of this beer mug, since it has this handle, I really don't want to center it because center doesn't always look visually centered. So I want to try my best to kind of center the body part of it. And I'm overlapping my lines here a little bit. And you'll notice I have a white outline around everything, and that's just to break up the outline. Now I want to be careful here that I'm not too close like this, because that's called a visual tangent, and it's just a thing where two objects kind of meet. It's uncomfortable to look at, basically, is the idea. So you either want to be all the way overlapped or all the way inside to a degree that's obvious. And that is our design in Adobe Illustrator. So now we're going to jump right into Affinity Designer and see if we can do the same thing. Now we're in Affinity Designer and we're going to create the same design. We'll be using a few different tools this time, but we should be able to achieve the same result as we did in Illustrator. So the first thing I want to do is grab my donut tool. The default on this is the triangle tool on my toolbar here. So if you're on that, you want to click and hold that until you see all of this little flyout menu with all these different tools. And the donut tool is pretty cool because it's going to make two circles at once. And we can change the radius of the inner circle after we set our circle on the artboard. So I'm going to click and hold this. I'm going to hold down Control and Shift. Now, Shift is going to constrain the proportions to a perfect circle, and Control is going to make it go from inside, from the center out or in. So if I hold both, it's going to constrain the proportions and let me resize from the center. So once I have this circle about how I think I need it, I'm just going to move it here a little bit so it's a little more centered. Now, you'll notice this area is huge compared to the last design we did. So what we want to do is make sure this donut is selected with our move tool. Then we're going to go to the whole radius. And we're just going to change that until it looks about how we want it. And now with that done, we can go here. We're going to make sure that our stroke, we can set our stroke to whatever we want until it looks good. Right now I have we'll do 14 again. And right now I have my fill set to none. So I just click on this swatch here and make sure that this white circle with the red slash through it is selected. And now I'm going to sample. I'm going to use my eyedropper, push I on my keyboard, or grab the eyedropper tool. And I'm going to sample this green swatch that is in the Shamrock file. Now you'll notice that when I did that, it sampled the properties of this. So it's just the fill is the same and I still have my black outline. So what I'm going to do here is hold down Shift on my keyboard and press X, and that will swap those colors. Now I'm going to go back here again to where I had this color and select none. Now what I want to do here is select this with my move tool, copy it, so Control C, then I'm going to paste it, and that just pastes it right where it was. And then again I'm going to hold down Control and Shift. And what I'm worried about here is the outer circle, because the inner one we're going to change with the whole radius option. So once I think that looks good, I'll change the stroke color back to black. I'll resize it here. We're gonna make this, we'll make this 9 points. I'm gonna grab my move tool, Control Shift, and just get this exactly where I want it before I do anything else on the outside here. Now the whole radius, we're just going to adjust that till that looks about good. And once we have that, then we're going to want to do our type on a path. And now the way we do that on here is we're going to use this ellipse tool. Control Shift, get that kind of where we want it. I'm going to use the align tools. I'm not sure if they have smart guides on here like they do on Adobe Illustrator. So for now, I'm just going to use the align tool. So I'm going to select both donuts and this new circle that I made. Align center vertically and horizontally. And now I can hold down Control Shift. Well, I'll select this inner circle that we just made. Hold down Control and Shift and just resize it to where we think it looks good and is centered. So now with that done, I'm going to right click this, convert to curves, and then I'm going to grab this node tool. I'm going to select this node, hold down Shift and select this node. And then here, my actions, I'm going to break the curve. Now this should do the same thing that our scissor tool did in Illustrator and just give us 2 halves to that circle. So with that done, I'm going to select my text here that says green beer, copy that. I'm going to go to my artistic text tool. Well, I think first I need to make sure this is selected. Go to my artistic text tool. And then make sure that when I mouse over it, it turns to that text on the path icon. Then we'll just paste in our text here. We're going to move this little green arrow to the end. Make sure we're centered. And the same thing, Control, Shift, and greater than. We'll make this bigger. And then I want to go here to baseline and adjust my baseline shift. And I'm holding down Alt, left and right arrow key to adjust kerning of individual letters. And that's our top text. I'm going to copy this. We're going to select, first we're going to select this bottom curve here, then we're going to go to artistic text. Make sure we have this type on a path icon here. Click on that. Then we're going to paste that right in. And we'll notice that this is upside down again. So what we want to do here is make sure we're on our text tool still. And then, let's see, then I'm just going to drag this green arrow that was on the right side of my text here to the top. Make sure we're centered on our text here. Then we'll see what size we made this text. This is 92 point. We'll make this 92 point. Adjust our baseline shift until it looks centered. Go in here with our text tool, hold down the Alt key, left and right arrows, and adjust our kerning on these letters individually until they look about how we think they should look. Make sure nothing's too close, make sure nothing's too far. We basically want the negative space in between the letters to be fairly uniform. Go back to our move tool. I'm going to grab our shamrock here, resize it. I'm just holding down the shift button to constrain that. Place this about where we think it should be. I'm going to copy and paste this. Then I'm going to flip it horizontally here with this little icon. Then I'm going to hold down shift so it stays on that line and just move it about where I think it should go here. Now we're going to take our beer mug, I'm going to just grab this layer here and move it to the top. That should do that. And again, I'm just going to hold down Control and Shift. Actually, this time I'm just holding down. No, this is resizing it constrained. So I'm just going to hold down Control until I have that about how I want it. We can make this extend a little further this time. It doesn't really matter what we do here. This is all just, again, up to your own personal preferences. Yeah, I'll make this smaller. And again, I mainly want to go for visual center here. I'm not worried about exact center. I'm just eyeballing it till it looks good to me. And that is our same design in Affinity Designer. Here's the Illustrator version of it. I mean, there's slight variations in the sizing and stuff, because when you're doing this type of design, I really think, again, that it's not necessary that you have to be technical and have the exact same size of lines and all that good stuff. You just need to go with what looks right to you. And you could put this on a t-shirt. You could put on a number of things. This will work great as a sublimation design. It could say, you can change the text to say anything you want, but it's pretty simple to make one of these circular designs, and it's one of those things that always looks good and people are always willing to buy. You can change these graphics out for anything. You could change the colors up to match different holidays or seasons. This is also great for personalized type of designs. This could be for somebody who makes microbrews in their garage. You can say Tony's Brewery, or whatever your street's name is, microbrew, and you can just change it out for different customers, and it'll only take a second to go ahead and come in here, select the text, and type something different. I hope you got some value out of this one. If you have any questions, please let me know. I have a Facebook group linked in the description of this video. Please join and ask any questions you might have there. If you need any advice or a critique, or if you're stuck on a design and you're not sure where you should go with it, I'm always around. I'm always willing to help. I'm always willing to listen. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.